City's daily COVID caseload falls below 1,000 for the first time since February. National Security Education Day promotion goes online amid the pandemic. And police arrest suspect for bank robbery from yesterday. Good evening and welcome. Hong Kong reported under 1,000 COVID infections today, the first time the daily tally has dropped to 3 digits since mid-February.
The chief executive says she will not hold daily pandemic press conferences starting tomorrow. The city recorded 946 COVID-positive cases, with 471 confirmed by PCR tests and 475 detected by rapid antigen tests. All but 11 are locally transmitted. 4 inbound travelers on a Qatar Airways flight from Doha tested positive upon arriving the Hong Kong airport. Starting tomorrow, passenger flights operated by the airline will be suspended from landing in the city for 7 days. Meanwhile, 36 more patients died at public hospitals yesterday. The youngest was a 59-year-old woman who suffered from chronic illness. An outreach vaccination program for homebound vulnerable groups will be expanded to all 18 districts by the end of the month.
But for now, those people will only be able to get the Sinovac jab. Christy Khan has more.
Speaking at the daily pandemic press conference, Secretary for the Civil Service Patrick Nip, who is in charge of the city's inoculation program, said the authorities aim to inoculate the homebound elderly and disabled in 18 districts through the door-to-door vaccination program by the end of May.
Now, for those elderly and persons with disabilities who wish to get vaccinated, but who are unable to go to these places, no matter how convenient they are, we have to serve them. And that's why we have to do this home vaccination service.
An online registration platform together with a service hotline will be launched next Tuesday. The 8-week home vaccination program is set to begin on the 26th of April. But the authorities will only administer Sinovac jabs to the groups at this stage.
We
started with Sinovac because the arrangement will be simpler. Secondly, for the elderly, those who chose Sinovac is of a higher proportion. So we will offer other vaccines in response to demand.
Nip said the outreach team will visit 4 to 5 districts every week to offer vaccination services. After 28 days, they will return to administer the next jab. They will also assess the condition of the individuals before vaccinating them. Nip also announced the government will start an autumn round of its outreach vaccination program in residential care homes for the elderly. Those elderly residents who have recovered from COVID will receive the jabs by the 10th of May. He said around 700,000 senior citizens aged 70 or above had received their first COVID vaccine dose. Christy Khan, TVB News.
Today is Good Friday, but in Hong Kong, it's also National Security Education Day. Government promotional campaigns have been moved online this year as a result of COVID.
The chief executive says she'll continue to promote national security education to the end of her term.
Promotional activities for National Security Education Day this year include a 5-minute special program and a picture book for children on outer space security in Chinese, English and several languages of ethnic minorities in Hong Kong. This as the chief executive hopes to promote these messages extensively.
National security encompasses many domains and not just limited to the understanding of the national security law and the implementation, and not just about territorial security and law and order. The basic tenet will be the security of the citizens.
In 2015, the National People's Congress designated April 15th of each year as the National Security Education Day. According to the National Security Law, the SAR must promote national security education and raise the awareness of the people of Hong Kong. Secretary for Security Chris Tang wrote on a newspaper article that 182 people have been arrested since the implementation of the National Security Law for related offences. Among them, 114 people have been prosecuted. Tang added the government will strengthen national security work, which includes the legislation for Article 23 of the Basic Law. Secretary for Justice Teresa Cheng stated in a blog post that the national security law clearly specifies the elements of each offence and that the reasons for the court's verdicts are available online. Secretary for Civil Service Patrick Nip wrote on social media today that new civil servants will be examined on their knowledge of the national security law during recruitment.
Chief Executive hopeful John Lee said there were painful events that happened in the city in the past because national security was under threat. Lee, who is a former Chief Secretary for Administration and a former Secretary for Security, said such events made people realize that when national security is threatened, the entire community and individuals will suffer. He said, therefore, there is a need to better understand national security and have sufficient control over national security risks. On another note, Lee said he's inclined to support proposals by the current administration to restructure the government.
National Security Education Day campaigns were also held in other parts of China. The Beijing Liaison Office in Macau and the Macau SAR teamed up to host an education expo. Chief Executive Ho Yat-seng said in the opening ceremony that Macau has gained hard-won achievements in safeguarding national security with the central government's support. A court in Beijing produced a short film to warn the public about the national security risks. In Guangzhou and Foshan, 7 designated national security trains went into operation today, where passengers could learn more about the topic through the decorations on the trains.
A 73-year-old man is facing charges in connection with a bank robbery in Mongkok yesterday.
The suspect, who is a Singaporean Chinese, was arrested this morning in Yuen Long. Caleb Leung has details.
The 73-year-old suspect, who resides at Yuen Kong Chun on Kam Sheung Road in Yuen Long, is an overstayed Singaporean Chinese who lives with his wife. Officers escorted the man away in the early morning. At his residence, the police found a toy gun he allegedly used and the clothing he is suspected to have worn during the robbery. That's in addition to money he allegedly stole. The police say the suspect is jobless and owes around several $100,000 in debts believed to have been used for purchasing daily necessities. They added that the suspect is retired. The incident happened at around 3 p.m. Thursday at a branch of China Construction Bank Asia on Nathan Road. Footage from the bank's security cameras showed the suspect handing a note to a bank teller and then pointing an object that appeared to be a gun at the teller. The man in the footage escaped after he made off with some $14,000 in cash. The police believe the suspect could also be linked to another robbery case involving a drugstore in Mongkok 2 years ago. The suspect's neighbors said the man and his wife kept a low profile.
The lady is very nice to me.
You don't know the husband, right?
I just say hello but we have not really knowing very well.
Quite sad because it seems like they're not really criminal, but difficult situation forced them to do something like this. Just see them come out and just say hello, and that's it.
The suspect's neighbors also said they have never seen anyone entering the village to collect debt. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
Hong Kong Polytechnic University has decided to cut ties with its student union. In a letter to the student union, PolyU demanded the union stop using the institution's name or claim affiliation with it. The student body and all of its affiliated organizations were also asked to move off campus by July 15th. According to the Students' Union, the move was made after it did not sign an acknowledgement of compliance. That required the student body to not engage in any acts that would damage the school's reputation. The union says the document did not clearly spell out what it means to damage the reputation of the institution.
Still ahead on tonight's news. Russia suffers setback in Ukraine after losing its flagship. Washington says NATO retains open-door policy on admitting new members. Reactions to Elon Musk's proposed takeover of Twitter. Welcome back. Russia's defense ministry promised today to ramp up missile attacks on the Ukrainian capital, Kiev.
The warnings come a day after Moscow suffered a stinging symbolic defeat with the loss of the Russian Navy's Black Sea flagship. In what would be one of the heaviest blows of the war, Russia announced that the Moskva sank while being towed after being badly damaged. Ukraine said it hit the Soviet-era missile cruiser with a Neptune anti-ship missile. Russia's defense ministry spoke only of a fire breaking out and of exploding ammunition. U.S. officials say the loss of the recently refitted ship is a setback for Russia.
It's going to have an impact on their capabilities, certainly in the near term. Whether it has an impact on their naval capabilities in the long term is just unclear right now.
In his late-night video address, President Volodymyr Zelensky paid tribute to how Ukrainians have fended off the Russians, including those who showed that Russian warships can sail away, even if it's to the bottom of the sea. Zelensky told Ukrainians that they should be proud of having survived 50 days under Russian attack when the Russians gave them a maximum of 5. Russia's defense ministry said that overnight missile strikes have hit several military facilities in Ukraine, including an artillery missile depot on the edge of the Ukrainian capital. Russia's Navy also continues to bombard cities on the Black Sea as residents of Odessa brace for new attacks. The United Nations World Food Program says people are being starved to death in the besieged city of Mariupol, where a humanitarian crisis is expected to worsen as Russia intensifies its assault. Ukraine says tens of thousands of people are believed to have been killed in Mariupol as efforts continue to evacuate civilians. Ukraine's chief prosecutor has outlined plans to take legal action against war crimes allegedly committed by the Russian military during its invasion of Ukraine. Still, French President Emmanuel Macron cautions against a war of words with regards to the conflict.
Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department asserted that NATO retains an open-door policy when it comes to prospective admissions to the alliance. Dan Orell tells us more.
Ukraine's chief prosecutor said the country is looking into taking legal action over alleged war crimes committed in Ukraine by Russian forces. Still, Irina Venediktova said the process would take some time.
Ukrainians want justice now. But we all understand that the process of criminal procedures for starting to collect all evidence when we're still in the war actually. When we have huge number of cases, it's not so fast case and it's not so simple.
International Criminal Court prosecutor Karim Khan, speaking alongside Venediktova, said an investigation into the allegations will study all available evidence.
We have to check what is the truth. What does it show? Who, if anybody, is responsible if crimes may have been committed? And we go step by step, but we should do so with some urgency.
Elsewhere, French leader Emmanuel Macron refused to use the term genocide in relation to Russia's invasion of Ukraine when asked about the conflict on his presidential campaign trail. Macron said the word is legally defined and should not be a political term. He argued against the need for an escalation of words, with peace talks having so far been unsuccessful. Macron held talks with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday to discuss future military and political aid. France has already sent around €100 million worth of weapons to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the US State Department asserted that NATO retains an open-door policy when it comes to prospective admissions to the alliance. The statement comes with Russia warning that Finland and Sweden would face military and political consequences if they joined the group.
We believe that NATO's open door is an open door, and it is up to the NATO alliance to determine, and only the NATO alliance, to determine what its membership looks like. We would not be concerned that the expansion of a defensive alliance would do anything other than promote stability on the European continent.
Moscow's ongoing invasion of Ukraine has sparked widespread support for NATO membership in Finland and Sweden. The two European Union member states have traditionally been non-aligned militarily. Finland shares a 1,340-kilometre-long border with Russia, the longest among EU countries. Earlier this week, Finland's government issued a security report to lawmakers as their Swedish counterparts began a review of security policy options. Some analysts believe this could potentially pave the way for NATO membership down the line. Daniel Rao, TVB News.
According to ratings agency Moody's, Russia may be in default after it made payments on US dollar bonds with rubles. Moody's said that Russia reportedly made payments on two bonds maturing in 2022 and 2042 in rubles rather than US dollars. It said this would be a change in payment terms compared to the original bond contracts. The company said this could be deemed a default if it is not cured by the 4th of May, the end of the grace period. If Russia is considered in default, it would be its first major default on foreign bonds since the years after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917. Russia has argued it wants to service its debt, but Western sanctions over the war in Ukraine have prevented the country from doing so.
Tesla founder Elon Musk has shocked financial markets and the technology world by announcing plans to buy out Twitter in a multi-billion-dollar bid.
Will the move from the world's richest man change the digital social media landscape? More from NBC News.
Calling Twitter a de facto town square, Elon Musk today said he's trying to buy Twitter in a $43 billion deal to preserve democracy and prevent censorship. Speaking at a TED conference today.
It's just really important that people have both the reality and the perception that they are able to speak freely within the bounds of the law.
After announcing last week he's taken a 9% stake in Twitter, the world's richest man shocked Wall Street and the world today by making a take-it-or-leave-it offer, suggesting he could dump his own shares if the board says no.
I could technically afford it. This is not a way to sort of make money.
Wall Street, though, is skeptical.
The offer heard around the world, a Twitter takeover by Elon Musk, whether it happens.
Both Twitter and Tesla stock moved lower, with investors concerned that Musk would need to sell Tesla shares to buy Twitter.
One of the things that I believe Twitter should do is open source the algorithm.
While Twitter doesn't have the reach of Facebook or Instagram, run by another billionaire, Mark Zuckerberg, Twitter has become a critical channel for sharing news and information. But it's also moved to shut down hate speech and conspiracy theories. President Trump was banned after the January 6th insurrection. Musk himself has engaged in name-calling on Twitter and came under SEC sanction for making financial statements about Tesla.
I'm, tweeting more or less stream of consciousness,
But he also has 82 million followers and uses Twitter to unveil new ideas and innovations. Full ownership would only increase his influence.
I think he really does love it. At the same time, it's a very dicey financial proposition for him, even as the richest man in the world.
New data shows healthy 5 to 11-year-olds could benefit from another kid-sized shot of the vaccine produced by Pfizer and BioNTech. In a small study, 140 youngsters who'd already gotten 2 shots were given a booster 6 months later. Researchers found the extra shot generally revved up their immune response with virus-fighting antibodies enough to fight the super contagious Omicron variant. In recent weeks, an even more contagious version of Omicron called BA.2 has become the dominant type around the world. The companies plan to ask the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to authorize a booster for healthy 5 to 11-year-olds. U.S. health authorities already urge everyone 12 and older to get 1 booster dose for the best protection against the newest variants.
South Korea will remove most pandemic restrictions next Monday as the Omicron outbreak eases there. Authorities will remove a 10-person limit on private gatherings and lift a midnight curfew at restaurants and cafes. Large political rallies and other events involving 300 or more people will also be allowed. From April 25th, people can also eat inside cinemas, religious facilities, and train stations. Still, wearing masks indoors is required, but health authorities could remove an outdoor mask mandate if the infections further slow over the next 2 weeks.
Shanghai reported 3,200 locally transmitted COVID cases and over 19,000 local asymptomatic carriers on Thursday. Most of the cases were found in those who are confined to their homes. Authorities are struggling to find enough space to serve as quarantine facilities. Some residential compounds are being turned into quarantine centers, and there were clashes between the police and tenants who were asked to move out of their homes. The company who were in charge of the operation said they had earlier made an agreement to have the tenants move to other compounds. Authorities have settled the incident. That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.